This week on Full Credit to the Noise, Brodie Kostecki lays down a new marker. Triple Eight are officially in the horrors, and papaya rules don't suit Pato O'Ward. Welcome to Full Credit to the Noise. Well, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Full Credit to the Noise. You can find this podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at FCTTN Podcast. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, and Facebook at _legend. You can find the bloke across me on Twitter at AVL_motorsport. He's on Instagram at AVL.motorsport. He's a man who this week defended his Western Australian yo-yo title. He has laid down the challenge to Conor McGregor to be his next opponent. And tonight he's wearing Speed Dealer sunnies and a bum bag. Welcome to Speedcafe's Andrew Van Leeuwen.
Thank you, Former. There were fireball speed dealers as far as the eye could see at the Mad Cow on Sunday night. Let me tell you that much. So, seen plenty of that action in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, how's your bum bag? What's in it? Tell us what you carry around.
Never.
Is it of interest to police?
Well, there was a suspicious package at the circuit, so maybe that's what it was.
Well, we'll touch on that. You're going to fight Conor McGregor, mate. I mean, why are you fighting old men who with busted knees?
There was a few people at the track interested in how that fight was going to go and wondering how to watch it while at the track, and it turns out it wasn't that hard. It only lasted 59 seconds or whatever it was.
Mate, I'd like to see some betting slips on what happened over the weekend amongst some big bets laid. But, on the weekend, obviously, the biggest story in this end of the world was Townsville. A triple header on Friday. Brodie stuck it on pole, but was beaten by Cam Waters, proving that his speed was not just a one-off thing. Brodie got second. Matt Payne was third. Saturday, Brodie again stuck it on pole. Payne, Anton, and Brodie were the 1, 2, and 3. And then on Sunday, Waters stuck it on pole. But Brodie Kostecki tagged, about the biggest thing that happened that wasn't to script was he tagged a wall during a burnout. He beat home Matt Payne and Cam Waters. Pretty much the cream might be starting to rise to the top. Is that unfair?
Yeah, no, there was definitely a clear top three across the weekend in terms of Matt Payne, Brodie Kostecki and Cam Waters, which is, obviously they're all forwards, but it's pretty exciting if you think about that come finals time. Like that's three pretty powerful guys there that could be going head-to-head for the championship. And then we know that Triple Eight will figure things out and come back into the game. And then, there was that result for Anton, which they really needed on a tough weekend. It was kind of somewhat helped by some slick strategy and some good fuel management and that sort of stuff. But, in terms of pure pace, it was just those three top forward guys out front just going at it. Although we didn't see a whole heap of really close racing at the front because obviously, Matt Payne really ran away with Saturday's race and Brodie Kostecki just beat everyone very comprehensively on the Sunday. So, like I say, three guys that it does seem that Tickford have got their head around whatever was going on with their qualifying pace earlier in the year. And Cam seems in good form. And this is two circuits now, two very different circuits where he's been at the front and winning races. So, we're officially at the midway point of the season and it's kind of feeling pretty exciting.
Maybe we'll touch on this a little bit later, but is it possible that the Supercars champion, I know we've got a long way to go yet, but maybe the Supercars champion and the MotoGP champion this year both had rounds out and could still, or races off, and might still be the winners, because that's quite extraordinary when you look at Brodie and how crook he was in Darwin to come back like this. And he was dominant all weekend, as you said. He may well have only got the one win, but geez, he was there and thereabouts the entire weekend, and it looks like that speed is there to stay, at least in one of the cars in that shed. Let's go to Champagne and Shizen over the weekend. We'll start with the good news and the Champagne. Well done to Supercars TV. Good, and a massive improvement over Darwin. Not as many clangers and mistakes, although there was a couple of things that people pointed out to me that they thought could be fixed. The fact that there are 26 cars, but we can only see the top 24, was a little bit annoying over the weekend. And possibly the other thing was just a few little bibs and bobs, like you can hear directors talking to each other whilst there was an interview going on with Kai Allen at one stage. And like I said, little things, but nowhere near as bad as the shit sandwich we were served up in Darwin. So well done to Supercars TV. Now, this one, Barry Ryan. protection athlete, AVL. And, let's be honest, it's a rodeo clown. And Barry had the balls to get in amongst some of those big animals and try and distract their attention. Earlier this year, you'd be fair to ask if his cars had taken rear suspension tips from one of the bulls, AVL. And I've got to be honest, after seeing Dave Reynolds' Instagram reel from Saturday night at the rodeo, it's the first time I've heard a bloke cheering for the bull. But anyway, well done to Barry for that, showing some nuts. Droop is back, AVL. Woohoo! It's been a while, but we finally started hearing about Droop on the weekend. And geez, I've missed it. Although, from all reports, a few blokes look like they were going to get battling Droop all night at the Mad Cow on Sunday. Can you report on that?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair assessment.
And KO, well done to KO for one thing, in their menus on Saturday, they had supercars as V8 supercars. Is this the first move in the change to relabel them V8 supercars, AVL?
I doubt it on an official front, but I mean, it just sort of shows that is what people still refer to it as. That's what it's always been. And it's a name that just, it's a bit like Clipsal. It's pretty hard to get rid of, even if it's not the official term anymore.
All right, for every up, there's a down. So let's talk about the Shizen over the weekend. And there is that suspicious package. Police called to the track because it was a suspicious package, it's hard to say, next to the train lines that put a hold on proceedings on Friday. Although anyone that's driven around Townsville for a couple of hours knows they got their fair share of old bombs getting around the roads anyway. So I don't know whether we really had to panic too much. But that was good that was cleared up. Declan Fraser, what a weekend, AVL. I mean, He was consistent, if nothing else. I think he was 21st, 20th and 21st in 3 races, while his teammate ran around the top 10. Roland's come out today, and I noticed he said that they'll be looking into it and into Declan's form. And I understand that Gary Jacobson, Chris Pither and Richie Stanaway have called to offer their support to Declan. So take that how you want. Will Brown had a bit of a Shizen weekend, 19th, 12th and 19th in qualifying for the 888. Starting to look like it's giving him the shits too, which might be a good thing. Thank Christ he can overtake, not that Supercars TV mentioned that he could overtake 5,000 times over the weekend. So that was good. And finally, AVL, I know this is one that you brought up in the Discord, and I could not agree more. Why are we having qualifying format lotto every round we go to? I can't figure out why some weeks we have a Q1, Q2 shootout. Other times we just have Q1, Q2, Q3 no shootout. Then other times we just have a shootout. Why are we a sport that messes around with things like that to avoid consistency?
Well, I guess we have different formats for, a lot of the events. So it is actually fairly consistent with how Supercars goes about the sporting portion of a race weekend, and I don't mind that. Like, I do think that keeping things moving on the format front does work, and different events require... Obviously, we have just incredibly different circuits as well, between permanent circuits and street circuits and this and that. So I don't have a massive problem with it, but it does get confusing on the qualifying front because... As you say, you don't necessarily know. Like, you can go and read the ops manual and work out what the qualifying format is, but even then you have to learn what format 1, 2 and 3 are.
Shouldn't have to.
First, and it is just kind of, it is a little bit confusing. And yeah, it's I don't really know how you change it without just going to a blanket qualifying kind of format like F1 does, for example. And I do think that if there's one thing that F1 does well, it's qualifying. Like, that system is absolutely perfect. But that doesn't mean it would necessarily translate to supercars. And then, you kind of want to have some top 10 shootouts, but you don't want to have too many. So you just end up with this sort of mishmash. So I think you've either just got to embrace the kind of, as you say, the lottery of it, which I tend to do, just sit down and go, all right, how many cars are we knocking out here? I'm not 100% sure until we get into it. Or move to some sort of standardized format that, is going to work some places and not necessarily others. But it is definitely, it's a confusing thing to sit down and not fully understand. Or it's confusing for broadcast as well to have to retell the story of what format we're using each and every time. So it is probably something that, the one thing I will say, the quality formats this weekend, they have tightened a lot of that up. Like those sessions where we have in the Super 440 formats where you're setting the grid for 2 races and it takes like an hour and 45 minutes to get through the segments of qualifying twice over with these fairly long breaks in between. That does absolutely drag. But I really didn't mind the whole, like the 3-part qualifying on Saturday and Sunday, at least it moved pretty quickly. Like you felt like you went from Q1 to getting into the shootout pretty fast. So that format is actually quite good.
That was good. I agree with that. Yeah,
it's just whether you want a shootout everywhere.
Far better.
And to be perfectly honest, I still would prefer the shootout to only be Bathurst or only be the Enduros.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. All right, let's go to the shift cut because there was a fair bit going on over the weekend. 4, 3, 1. And we'll start with Tickford Racing, who have vowed to repay Thomas Randall later this season after an awkward team order scenario on Saturday at the Townsville 500 cost Randall a spot. Randall was running fourth when he was told to let teammate Cam Waters through with 5 laps from the finish. The swap was orchestrated on the basis that Waters would let Randall back through if he could not chase down Brodie Kostecki for third. Waters failed in his mission to catch up to Brodie, but was never instructed to hand the position back. Randall declined to discuss the scenario on the TV broadcast post-race, although team manager Matt Roberts explained Cam had 4-lap fresher tyres that time. He was going to have a crack at Brodie. If he couldn't get it done, he was going to give it back, but Will Brown was too close, so everyone aborted. He'll get it back one day. Cam will repay the favour.
I think he still owed a favour from Tasmania a year or so ago as well. So, and remember this was the day after he basically gave up was forced to give up his, not pit priority, but his strategy so they could get Cam in the lane to help him win that race on the Friday. So, just more examples of Thomas having to pay second fiddle at Tickford. I'm sure that's frustrating for him, but at the end of the day, Cam's the one that is scoring the bulk of the points. And there is a bit of a point there because obviously those points lost to Thomas when Cam couldn't get to Brodie and couldn't get on the podium. It didn't cost Thomas a lot of points, but it still cost him, I think it was 7 points. And he's the one that needs points to get in, to give himself a shot at getting into the finals, whereas Cam's going to breeze into the finals. So I can understand that would be frustrating. I can understand from the team perspective how it played out and how you wouldn't want to run the risk of losing 2 spots if you did try and orchestrate a swap with Will Brown, right behind the cars. But yeah, I'm sure it is something that does weigh on Thomas's mind at some point.
Yeah, I think you might be right there. Dick Johnson Racing crew member Charlie Blanchard is recovering from surgery after being injured during Friday's supercar race in Townsville. He sustained a finger injury from a rattle gun during a stop in the opening 100-kilometre race of the Townsville 500. He was hospitalised and underwent surgery after the wheel gun socket unfortunately caught his finger, and Brodie dedicated his win to Charlie on Sunday. But no, you can have that to yourself.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you kind of forget that there is a level of danger or risk of injury, in these pit stops. You've got a car coming flying into the garage. Everything's trying to happen at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And we don't see a lot of injuries in it, but, apparently this is a reasonably serious finger injury. And you kind of go, oh, yeah, that's right. When it does go wrong, it does have the potential to really hurt people.
Yeah, it's not for me, that sort of thing. My hands are lovely and white and soft AVL, as you know. Ryan Wood gave a glowing assessment of his competitors after a bruising battle wound up with him with a bent steering arm in his Toyota in Saturday's race. He said, yeah, it was super clean racing. It was awesome. I just sort of know what the standard is now at the moment, and I'll try and do the same tomorrow and force people to either crash or get out of the way. He said we need to put something in over the radio to his team, obviously saying that it should be protesting. These guys are taking the piss. Wood later spoke about his anger on TV. He said, sorry if I was angry on the telly to my mum and dad. Hopefully we come good tomorrow because we made a really good step today. I'll go watch some pro bull riding and chill out a bit and probably take a couple of chill pills before tomorrow. Is Wada there?
It's and obviously pro bull riding is the most relaxing sport you could possibly watch, so I guess that would definitely do the trick. But we are seeing a lot of this anger from Woody, and I don't know if it's just through the better integration of team radio into the broadcast for this year, which I do think. I mean, the new radio systems has caused some headaches for the teams, but it is great to have that additional radio as part of the broadcast. But we've certainly got some insight into how heated Woody gets in the car, but that's sort of part of his charm. He's got this passion and this kind of I don't know exactly how to put it, but he's got some. It's all part of his character, and it's kind of cool to see it on show. Even though I'm pretty sure after he probably watched the replay of the Kai Allen incident, he would have gone, "Yeah, okay, maybe I shouldn't have been so angry about that because I did try and squeeze him up against the wall and then turned in too early once I'd actually already ceded the position and damaged the car, which was pretty unnecessary."
Before we leave supercars, SRO Motorsports Australia confirmed that Richard Craill will no longer be able to feature in the Shannon Speed Series broadcast due to his recent supercars appointment as lead commentator. After many years with the Shannon Speed Series, SRL thanked Richard in a statement for all his contribution to the platform and wished him all the very best, although SRO Motorsports Australia CEO Ben McMillan stated he had a very bad feeling about Craill's appointment. What do you reckon he meant by that?
I don't know. What are you talking about?
You might have said that last bit anyway, it doesn't matter. Go to Formula One. For the past week, the Formula One paddock has been flooded with speculation that despite Oscar Piastri's contract running until the end of 28, the Australian is preparing to leave McLaren and has allegedly already informed the Woking-based team of his intention to depart at the end of this season. However, sources within both the team and the driver's inner circle have indicated that nothing has changed regarding the relationship between the 25-year-old driver and McLaren. According to those sources, the 9-time Grand Prix winner will remain with defending Constructors champions for the foreseeable future. I understand where this is coming from. My hunch is that this is all Max's people leveraging to get into Mercedes by making them jump before he does go to another team. But why would Oscar even entertain going to Red Bull, given the amount of quality people that have left that joint in the last sort of 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, I guess we spoke about this a little bit last week as well. I definitely think leaving McLaren would be a pretty bold move at the moment. And Mark Webber has hosed down the rumours about Oscar leaving in a fairly straightforward way. We saw the comments from Zach Brown at this, I think it was at the Silverstone race, where he was sort of asked about Max, and you know, like, of course you're never gonna say, oh no, we're not interested in a guy of that quality. But he was also like, I don't think either of the drivers want to leave, and we don't want them to leave. So I don't know there's too much to this. You never quite know. But when Mark Webber comes out and says that it's complete nonsense, then you know that's a decent statement. He's usually a straight shooter, and obviously, you know, I feel like this whole the kind of everything that played out to get Oscar to McLaren in the first place, I would think on the team side there would be some fairly long-term commitments there. So, you know, that's a good driver lineup they got, you know, and unless you really felt like you had a massive shot of getting Max Verstappen, I don't think you'd do too much to disrupt that.
Yeah. But talking of someone who does want to leave McLaren, Pato O'Ward has politely asked Zach Brown to fire him from his job as McLaren F1 reserve driver, as Formula One is no longer his dream, especially where the cars are at currently. The Mexican racer, who recently extended with McLaren in IndyCar, says that is where his future lies. He said, there's really nothing in this for me that is aching to keep on as a reserve driver in Formula One. I'm in a great place in IndyCar. I love the series. It's where I want to be. Looking at where the F1 race cars are currently, I'm not really excited to drive one, so I've politely asked to be fired from all the my services in Formula One. It remains to be seen whether O'Ward will take part in any of McLaren's 4 mandatory FP1 sessions later this season. I'll have a crack.
Yeah, no, well, I'm also going to resign my services as a Formula One driver, because I was probably going to make about as many F1 starts as Pato O'Ward was, I reckon. So I'm out as well.
Well, I've also resigned from IndyCar, NASCAR, Supercars, Formula Ford, XLs, Trans Am. What else have I retired from? Let's talk about Kiwis and Aussies overseas. And Shane Van Gisbergen qualified 12th for the Chewin' Tobacco for the Breakfast 400 at Atlanta. In the race, he fought at the front all day to grab 6th in a race won by Ryan Blaney. NASCAR officials summoned Shane Van Gisbergen and Austin Hill into the NASCAR hauler for a mandatory closed-door meeting to address their heated on-track clash from the previous week at Chicagoland AVL. While NASCAR chose not to issue any post-race penalties or fines to either driver, officials effectively laid down the law, warning both that future instances of intentional wrecking or on-track retaliation will meet severe points penalties or harsher punishments. Hill addressed the media after the meeting and just quietly, AVL, have you ever heard a bloke thicker than Austin Hill speak? I mean, he is dead set thicker than pig shit.
It's interesting just the way that NASCAR handles these things and doing that. But yeah, certainly the reaction from both drivers afterwards, like, I don't think they really reached any conclusions in terms of how to move forward with it. And it must be a pretty eye-opening thing for Shane to sort of be experiencing that. It's just so different to how things are handled here. And he's talked a lot about how much he likes it more there, and he likes the way the rivalries are handled and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, he certainly seemed to come out of that meeting with his eyes wide open, given the fact that Austin seemed to put his foot down and say, no, we're not putting this to bed.
Do you think they might have made them share a car and drive to lunch and meet all the NASCAR officials there?
I don't think so. I'm not sure it quite plays out like that.
I've watched Days of Thunder. I know how it works. Yeah. MotoGP in the sprint race, Marc Marquez won his 19th sprint race of his career, heading home brother Alex in a Ducati 1-2. He came after Marco Bezzecchi had to withdraw from the weekend after crashing out in qualifying at the Saxon Ring. Bezzecchi suffered a complete and displaced fracture of his left collarbone and will undergo surgery on Sunday in Italy. It's another damaging blow to his MotoGP title aspirations, having previously led the standings earlier this year. In the Grand Prix, Marc Marquez won from Iagura and Raul Fernandez. 24 points now cover the top 5 AVL, and Marquez sits in third, just 18 points from the leader. It was 100 only about 5 races ago. The leader is Jorge Martin. Alex Marquez fell again for the second Grand Prix in a row. And in Moto2, Senna Agius qualified 5th for the German GP and got 4th by the skin of his teeth. Now sits 3rd in the championship, although he is 60 points from the lead, but he is going exceptionally well, flying the Aussie flag. And Joel Kelso in Moto3, he qualified 12th, but had a day to forget. He ran 14th. All right, we'll come back after the break. We'll do the Super Cheap anti-ad next weekend because time got the better of us. But we'll come back with what's the forward headline from Townsville. Back in a minute.
Full credit to noise.
Winter could spell bad news for your vehicle's battery. Here are 3 maintenance tips from the battery gurus at R&J Batteries. 1. Avoid frequent short trips to keep your battery at a healthy state of charge. 2. Keep the battery terminals clean and corrosion-free. 3. Avoid running your accessories with the engine off for too long. If your battery is 3 years or older, it might be time to get it tested for free at your local R&J Batteries. R&J Batteries. Power like nothing else.
Yeah, welcome back to What's the Forward Headline. I'm going to give you a topic from the weekend, AVL. You just give me a forward headline. Don't panic if it's more than 4 because I know I have lent into that. All right, first topic for debate. Peter Zibris, what's your forward headline for Pete?
Dumping the tropics for the strip by the tip, because he left Townsville to take part in actually you might have even been there, some 8-hour enduro in an XL at Sydney Motorsport Park. Like
nothing personal. I ain't watching an 8-hour enduro at Eastern Creek. It'd have to be something special to get me out there. Mine's similarly titled, but Declan helped Pete pack. I reckon Declan would be happy to see Pete leave on Saturday night somehow.
Yeah, I think when you've got Roland Dane in the back of the garage, you're never quite going to feel completely at ease if you're not going too well.
No. What about Will Brown? What's your forward headline?
Lucky Dogs will be a tough listen, or maybe a tough record for Will, because I reckon Brodie will be pretty up and about this week.
My forward headline is it 2025 again? Because this is rinse and repeat.
Yeah, it is a little bit. I mean, I guess in this case, he wasn't the only one that was really struggling in qualifying in the Triple Eight garage, and that's the big difference compared to last year.
Yeah. What about Brodie Kostecki? What's your forward headline for Brodie?
One-upped Arvid Lindblad, because Lindblad almost shunted a Gen 3 Mustang with a DTM car at the Festival of Speed while doing a burnout. But they didn't actually crash, and then Brodie really showed him how it's done after the Sunday race.
Yeah, that was dicey. What's worth more, do you reckon, the DTM car or the Mustang?
I'm honestly not too sure, but that was that was pretty wild.
My forward headline is, it wasn't a crash, it was touch parking, and that was well done as far as I'm concerned. What's your forward headline for Ryan Wood?
Just never change, Woody. It's he may have been in the wrong with the Allen clash, and I'm sure if he watched the replay, he'd be much more measured on radio, on the car radio, and in the TV interviews, as we sort of touched on. But how boring would that be? Like, we want him to be him. Like, it's he's such a great addition to the sport as the character that he is. So I know Merv's trying to calm him down a little bit, but I hope he just keeps being Woody.
It's like Ivan Milat telling you how to go hitchhiking, really, isn't it? Merv's red hot, taking the lead there. My forward headline for Ryan Wood is future drivers union rep, because he's a fan of everyone and he'll go into bat for everyone as well. He was quite impressed by everyone's driving, and good on him for that. What's your forward headline for Thomas Randall?
Must have a drawer full of IOUs. He's really racking them up.
Mine is Thomas Bottas, best teammate ever. BJR, give me it.
Oh, I don't even know what to say. Like, they just had a shocker. Should have stayed in Albury. Like, what a shocking weekend for him.
Yeah, missing the Albury Frosts is what I wrote, because after Darwin and Townsville, I reckon they'd be happy to get back to Albury. Speaking of people that are struggling, what about the Camaros?
The perfect pre-Bathurst parody game. They're really nailing it. Don't care what anyone says about Team 18 as a factory team. This play is working out beautifully.
You can use this headline if it ever comes up, but how's this one? Time to get the parity started.
Nice. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, I'll definitely use that.
Jared Hughes, what's your forward headline?
He's just the happiest man on earth.
Oh, I just wrote Richard Crail already in trouble. He could dead set commentate. He's amazing. I think he's just an absolute breath of fresh air, and his attitude belies his age. I think he's fantastic. The Townsville 500, what's your forward headline?
Magnetic Island Street Race. I think it's time for a change. There's some good roads over there. It'd be like the Isle of Man, but with probably a lot less loss of human life. Let's do it. I
wrote a real opportunity for fans to spread out, because... Man, there was a lot of grass showing on the hills. That's all I'll put that down to. But finally, my man of the match from the weekend. What's your forward headline for Marc Marquez?
Well, I didn't see too much of the Grand Prix, so I'll leave this one to you.
Dominated.
You tell me.
He dominated. I just wrote his greatest title ever. If he wins this, man, well, I think we said this last week, but even more so now. I actually thought it was impossible, and now I actually think... Look, sure, the Saxon Ring is his bread and butter, and he wins there all the time, and it probably suits the Ducati as well. But I tell you, it's almost like this momentum that he's got now is going to be extremely hard to stop. So,
and you made the comparison before to Brodie in terms of missing a race.
Unbelievable.
But it's almost not comparable, because obviously the final system means that Brodie can miss a race, and it actually doesn't. For someone as fast as him and who scores points so regularly, it doesn't really affect his title hopes at all. But in the case of a more traditional point score like in MotoGP, to be missing races and still in the hunt for championships, that's something.
Yeah, just quietly, just watching the Aprilia riders who really should. One of them should have at least been like 100 points still in front. To watch them take turns in treading on their own dicks each weekend is just spectacular. Yeah, in some regard, maybe it is just the reputation of Mark that's got them spooked, but Jesus, they're making some big mistakes on their way through. All right, we'll go to a break and we'll come back with Rear of Grid, including Credit or Shred It. Yeah, welcome back to Rear of Grid. Now, AVL, the only thing, well, actually, I think it might have been busy than Townsville, but the Discord as part of the FCTTN membership on the weekend, I don't know whether you noticed, but we started up a new channel where we were talking about cars for sale on Cars Guide, and holy dooly, car sales. There was some exciting additions to that on the wish list of some of the punters there. But then we got into a deep discussion about dodgy motorsport sponsors. Did you get into that?
I didn't get too much into it. Where'd you land on that one?
We headed towards Rich Energy, and we had we dabbled in Rabble.
it's been fun to meet a couple of Discord members at the last few rounds. Josh, who's very prominent in the Discord, was at the party last night, and we made sure
he's a good man.
Anyone that is a member did get access to the party, so I think that was a pretty cool experience for him. So there's all sorts of benefits that do come for being involved. As you say, the Discord was just a fun place to be. We say it every week, but it really is. So it's definitely worth signing up for.
He did say to me today, there's a few of them that actually let me know that they were there on the weekend, but Josh said he was quite surprised that you gave him a ticket, but you said he had to get nude. What was that about?
That was definitely not part of the deal. Although we did both end up wearing our Chimera shirts to the party, so that was the only bit of awkwardness. We had the same shirt on.
All right, let's talk about some credit or shred it. So I'm going to make a statement. You just tell me whether you agree with a credit or disagree with a shred it, and we'll come back after we've done all 6. Number 1. The support card on a Supercars round is important to ticket sales.
Shred it.
Credit. Number 2, Ryland Gray has shown glimpses that should give him a second season at DJR.
Credit.
Credit. Number 3, Triple Eight are now officially in a slump. A slump caused by not having a heap of customers to review their data.
Shred it.
Shred it. Number 4, Kai Allen is the best driver in the field to maximise points when he doesn't have outright pace.
Shred it.
Credit. Number 5, there is room for a Goodwood Festival of Speed type event in Australia.
Credit.
Credit. Number 6, everyone outside of England will cheer against them in the remaining games of the Soccer World Cup.
Credit, hopefully.
Credit. Credit. All right, let's go back. Support cards. I think it is important because as much as probably Supercars, I'd hate to admit it, when the Stadium Super Trucks were on, I know people were quite excited about those being there and bought tickets accordingly.
Yeah, maybe in extreme cases like that where it is something. But I mean, like Stadium Super Trucks is as closely related to like actual car racing as like professional bull riding.
WWE is the boxing.
Yeah. So like it's that is a value add sort of proposition in the same way that like bull riding or a concert or whatever is. I think that support categories absolutely have an impact on the overall quality of the product and the lasting impression on a patron to an event. But I'm not convinced there's a direct relation to pre-event ticket sales to whether it's Michelin Sprint Challenge or Carrera Cup, to use that as an example. So I think it is important to have good support categories, but I don't think that you can draw a direct link. Like there will be the odd case where someone says, I really want to see Trans Am or Super 2 or this or that, so I'm going to go. But in most cases, if you want to go to the Townsville 500 or the Gold Coast 500 or the Bathurst 1000 or whatever event it is, you're going to do that regardless of what the support categories are.
Yep. Ryland Gray has shown glimpses that should give him a second season at DJR.
I say credit because, I think he'll get another season regardless. But at the same time, I think he does need to ramp things up in the second half of the season. And simply, if for nothing else, his own confidence and development. But, again, we saw a glimpse in terms of him making the shootout this weekend. That's really good. But, there's still a bit of a one-car team feel about DJR at the moment. And I think that if you look at, we need to give rookies time. It's tough. You're coming up against one of the best drivers in the sport as a teammate at that team, but you could apply all of those factors to Kai Allen as well, and it feels like his development was just that bit faster. He'd obviously done some wildcard stuff as Ryland had, but sort of maybe came in with a few more runs on the board. But I do think that we need to see a big second half of the year for Ryland to kind of really get a read on what his future holds and what he's capable of at this level. People
were sort of throwing in the Discord about who else would be out there that could take his seat, and nobody really came up with a stunning argument for someone else. I've got to say,
it's an odd contract year in terms of all the top talent is locked away, providing there's not more weirdness that we don't quite know in terms of perhaps the Matt Payne and Grove Racing and GM thing and all that sort of stuff. But it is kind of one of those years where again, if you went okay, well let's make a change. There's not an obvious kind of direction to go in to replace him. I certainly think, if I ran DJR, I'd be running Ryland again next year because I'd want to see where he can get to. So I think that is the right move for the team. But I would also be really hoping to, like I said before, just see a little bit more from him in the second half of the year and see a bit more consistency, and to see that gap to Brodie close up a bit. And I know that's a big ask because Brodie is exceptionally good, but Ryland came into the series with a lot of raps on him, with a lot of support from forward, and I think we need to see a little bit more. I think that's a pretty fair thing to say.
Yeah, I think that's more than fair. Triple Eight slump is caused by not having a heap of customers to review data.
Yeah, look, they are in a slump to some extent, but I don't think the data sharing is the reason. Like in the GM days, the data sharing was a pretty one-way stream. I don't know they were necessarily getting a whole heap out of their customers that bought the data package. Obviously, they only have one of them now, which is BRT. They used to have a lot more of them. So I think a lack of data is a huge contributing factor to where Triple Eight's at, because the slump is effectively self-inflicted, because Triple Eight's trying all sorts of weird stuff to see what it does with the Mustang Aero package, and they're trying to build a data and knowledge bank around this car. So, like to sort of simplify that, instead of trying to massage a baseline that actually works okay. You look at how they started the season in Sydney, and, Brock was leading the championship until we got to Darwin. So they kind of had a baseline that was doing the job, but they just want to learn more and understand more. And again, with the final system, you have the flexibility to go, well, let's just have the odd weekend where we effectively throw a donkey vote and just put all this weird stuff in the car and actually just see what it does, which is what they're saying they're doing at the moment. And they kind of came into this weekend knowing they weren't going to be super competitive. And yeah, that's where they're at. So it is a data issue in terms of they want more data about the car, but I don't think it's a case of them having less data customers. I don't think that's the issue.
Yeah. Kai Allen's the best driver to maximise points when he doesn't have outright pace. I say credit. I think he does exceptionally well at just getting the most points for the speed that he has on the day.
Yeah, that's very hard to say, but I said shredded because without spending hours and hours poring over data that we'll never have access to, it's impossible to say who's the best at maximising any given package at any given time. So he obviously does a very good job of that, but he also has come out of a weekend where he was outclassed by his teammate speed-wise to a fairly significant extent. So it's also hard to say, well, he's getting the best out of not having car speed when the other car's 15 seconds ahead of the whole field winning the race. So again, I'm not being critical of Kai. It's just impossible to actually put a label on someone being the best at that without, doing a lot of analysis with, again, like I said, data you're not necessarily ever going to see.
Room for a Goodwood Festival of Speed. Hear me out. The track starts on Mountain Straight and finishes at the elbow. And then there's a static display down the bottom, and it's held in spring. But here's my problem, because I think this is a great idea. I don't know that we have enough crowd-drawing cars.
Yeah, I mean, you can sort that by bringing cars in from overseas. If you think back to when would it have been, like 2018 or whenever it was, when the tender was up for the 5th event at Bathurst, this is effectively what Supercars wanted to do.
Yes.
That was their pitch, and it was them against ARG with the Bathurst International Plan. The International Plan won, and then, it did not go well at all. So, there's a whole other world, and probably something like this would have fallen by the wayside during COVID anyway. But there's an alternate universe where Supercars wins that tender and we actually have something exactly like this. But we'll also see what Phillip Island does with the expansion of the historic thing that they're talking about as well. But I guess that's more of a Goodwood revival sort of feel of thing more than a Goodwood Festival of Speed thing. So it would be cool to have something like that. For sure.
Isn't the worst thing either. And we're all going to be cheering for England in the Soccer World Cup. Against them, definitely. I should say, not for them. Jesus.
Yeah, against them. Yeah, for sure.
You're upset about Brendan McCullum, your lookalike, getting sacked today, mate? You dealing with that okay?
Yeah, no, that's at the end of baseball.
Yeah. What a shame. Gave us all hope. I was going to talk about Whisper of the Week, about who was man of the match at the Mad Cow last night, but we'll just let that go through to the keeper. Let's talk about our fan of the week.
There was a few contenders as well. There was a few contenders, don't worry. I know who you're thinking about, but there were a few contenders, and a few of them were on a 6 a.m. flight this morning as well, which I reckon would have been pretty rough.
a couple of blokes were sideways from a few independent witnesses. But anyway, this letter comes from our Discord. It comes from Matt JA90. He said, if you could pick 2 current full-time drivers with talent that exceeds their team's championship credentials, who would they be and why? I think Andre would be a consistent mid-10 runner if he was in a more consistent team other than BJR. I think Grove, Triple Eight, or DJR, he says. The second one for me would be Ryan Wood. I still think Walkinshaw are patchy through the season. If he was at Groves, for example, then he has the pace to be beating Payne, I reckon. Your thoughts?
That's a pretty big call. Matt Payne against Ryan Wood would be a heck of a matchup.
Oh, I'd love to see it.
Pretty interesting to see. Yeah, this is another sort of impossible question to answer because it sways with, firstly, it sways with the form of the whatever team you're talking about so much. Like, you know, obviously BJR had a shocker this weekend, but Andre won a race 3 rounds ago, you know. At that time, you know, if you look through New Zealand and Tasmania, you would have said Cam Waters was in this boat because they were absolutely nowhere. And now he's bounced back and he's right at the front. So, like, ultimately the level is so high in supercars now that for the vast majority of the grid, if you put them in a top team, they would run consistently at the front. So it actually it applies to everyone, a very large portion of the field.
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought of names, but like you said, it's recency bias that I think of those names. So I might just, much like you, might just let that one go through to the keeper. But it's worth a debate over a few beers. All right, that'll about do us for this episode of Full Credit the Noise. Don't forget you can find the show on all the socials at FCTTN Podcast. You can read AVL's excellent work over at speedcafe.com where they break all the big motorsport news first. Until next week, I've been Former Legend. He's been AVL. This has been Full Credit the Noise, and we'll see you at La Source.
See you there.
Full Credit the Noise.